What's going on, guys? Okay, so today I wanted to review YTRA and CTMX. We're just going to look at these technically speaking because the volume confirmation was definitely there on both of these. Let me just close this. Okay, so we're looking at the 30-minute chart with the Heikin-Ashi candles, and then we've got our standard deviation lines set up here. So if you're looking at your 30-minute, the white line right here offered some very, very nice support. And below that, if you're buying, I would buy off that dash line or slightly below. You can see it dropped and it almost came to that dash line, and then it got a lot of volume, a lot of buying in the morning, and not much selling. So this was trying to run here. It pushed back down because it couldn't break that resistance level of 275 to 278 zone, right? So if it had broke over this standard deviation and held and had a really nice bullish candle above that, then you could say, okay, it's broke that support. And if it had really nice volume confirmation, right? But this candle is a very bearish candle on the 30-minute. So it definitely had to pull back and test some support levels. And you can see with your 30-minute standard deviation lines, those solid lines are going to be solid, more reliable support levels. So you can see it came back and tested that on the 30-minute at around 250. So 250 to 252 was a really nice level to buy off of, and I would say 250 to 260 was a fairly safe area to buy if you had a stop loss below 250. I got in at 260 because I saw that 250 level held very nicely, and we got a really nice wick that came in there on the 30-minute. So we can look at the 5-minute as well, or the 15. So you can see it pulled back, but it actually confirmed a higher low there, and was riding the moving average here. So that is your 12-day moving average. And it was riding that moving average as well, and it held on the 30-minute that 250 level, which is a key level, obviously. Those $half levels when you're day trading is very important. And then once it broke back above that solid line there, which was about, I'm going to say, 265, and it got some decent volume, that's really when the run started, is when it broke back above that standard deviation line. And now it was able to test the next standard deviation. So it was able to go for one full standard deviation move, right? But again, looking at that 30-minute, it was able to hold that solid support on the 30-minute at 250. So it was able to hold that. That's when I was starting to look at this stock for volume and for an entry, because it had dipped down, and I would consider that to be a safer entry. And it held I would say the top 1/4 of this gap up, right? If it had fallen below that 250 level and kind of filled half of the gap, I would have less confidence in this play. But it was able to hold, that top quarter level and trade between the standard deviation, right? You can see it was really trading in between this range, and it got some volume coming through there. I was more confident. But if it had fallen through these tighter MAs like the 12 and the 9-day, or the 8-day, the blue and yellow here, I would have been, and also below that solid standard deviation line, I would have been more risk averse on the trade. But it had not fallen through. It had actually held that support, and that's when I said, okay, let's take a trade on this. It looks like it's actually holding that top quarter of this gap up move, or even top third of the gap up move, I would say, because you can see that's really, if we're going from 2.1 to, I'd say 286, but there was a lot of resistance here at 278 and 280. If you're going from there, that's 1, 2, 3 standard deviations, right? So you can say that's, it's holding the top third of that move, of that gap up. And you can also see in the morning, you got a ton of volume, a lot of buying, really. If you're using your custom volume indicator, you can see a ton of volume coming through here. And again, guys, I know this is simulated trading. I don't use this for trading. I use a Canadian broker But I do use this for indicators and just for plotting entries and stuff, because these standard deviation lines are so useful. But yeah, so it made basically a 3 standard deviation move. It pulled back and held that top standard deviation level of 250. It wicked up really nicely on that 30-minute candle, and then the game was on. Basically, it was ready to run, and now we're experiencing some resistance. I would say around $3. So it might make a nice move to $3, potentially even a bit higher to 320. I would say, to get that full range in. It's going to depend on next week, though, I think. But this is a really nice trade, really easy trade. It had a lot of volume on the day, and you can see a lot of buying if you look at your 15-minute or even your, you know what, let's look at the 1 hour to give us some well-rounded look. So I mean, this trend was basically green the entire way through, and then you can see in the morning, massive buys came in. And so, and the Heiken Ashi trend did not change. You didn't see any red in the trend here on the hourly. You didn't see, saw barely any red. If you're trading on the 30-minute, it's when you're kind of entering on the red candles. Those are going to be safer entries. And then entering off of your standard deviation levels as well, the 250 zone on that 30-minute. So this is why I use this, because those solid lines are going to be more solid support levels. And then you can use this in combination with your 12-day and 8-day moving averages for day trading. So this was a really, really clear trade, really easy trade, because those candles were just nonstop going green. We can look at the 5-minute here. So really simple trade, honestly. Really easy to see. It's, we had that parabolic SAR signal the entire way through. You can see some selling here, but it continued up, and then we got a little bit more selling. Now we got another parabolic SAR signal, the bullish dots here. So this was actually a really solid place to get in, because we saw a lot of buying come in, and it just got rejected by those resistance levels, and it needed some time, some consolidation. So it had to pull back here, but it actually made a higher low from the morning open dump here, you could say, or pullback. It actually made a higher low there, and then you're plotting your trend lines, and this is a very, very clear trade. Okay, and then CTMX, really, really nice news on this one. So I'm actually going to pull that up. So it's CytoMX to receive $30 million upfront payment with the potential for up to $2 billion in research, development, and regulatory and sales-based milestones. So the $2 billion, so they're getting $30 million upfront. That's a really good thing to see, is when you see they're actually getting cash immediately from another company. That's going to actually increase the value of the stock right now, and that's the kind of news you want, is when they're receiving cash, or they're selling something and they're receiving a big lump sum of cash, and that's going to really move the stock, I would say. And then Regeneron is also giving them another $2 billion allowance for any expenses for research, development, regulatory, and sales-based milestones. So that's on Regeneron to pay for that. So that's even more bullish, I would say. So this is really, really good news for the company, and I would say this stock is going to probably continue up further in the next couple weeks as well. I do think it's a $2 stock. Given this news, I mean, Regeneron is a massive company, and them reaching out to such a small cap here is, that's amazing news. So yeah, I think we'll probably break through here. We got a fantastic close on Friday, and we'll probably break through to $2 at least, because there's a lot of resistance there at $2. And then we'll have to assess once it hits $2 how much further this can really go, depending on the volume. But that's just some incredible volume coming in there, and a massive company, a massive biotech company backing this company and giving them upfront cash and the $2 billion expense allowance. That's huge. But let's look at that was one of the reasons I took the trade, obviously. But let's look at the chart now. Okay, so we're on the 30-minute. You can see the 30-minute offers some really good support and resistance levels. As you can see, it pulled back to $1.48, and that was really the solid support level that you would want to enter off of. And you can see this stock gapped up, and it actually held the top third of that move. It actually held that level and was riding those moving averages, the 12 and the 8-day moving average. It was actually riding that in the morning with some solid buying volume in the morning. And you know, it was just holding that top gap up zone, right? It was holding this standard deviation. It was trading in this zone, and it still is. You can see like how exact these lines are and how great these are to use on the 30-minute, because you know, this popped up, it couldn't break that $1.67 level, right? So that would have been your target, is, you know, having a 1 standard deviation move on a stock with really good news and good volume. You know, you're looking for, you're buying off of the solid line here, $1.47 to $1.50, and then you're selling it at a, you know, at that 1 standard deviation level, and that can be your target, which is the pre-market high, as you can see there. And then on the next move up, it is slightly, you know, if we look at where it's trading now, or where it hit, it actually broke the pre-market high. So I would say this is still bullish and still holding that half standard deviation line now. But you can see again, it pulled back exactly to that support, which is a new support of $1.55, right? You can see it's in an uptrend. So it pulled back here, and it came right to that solid line. It ran for 1 standard deviation, and then it sold off. Pulled back again, and then same thing happened. Pull back, right? $1.55 is the new support here, and then it ran 1 standard deviation to $1.78. So that's a really, really nice gain right there for a day trade. If in fact it does hold that solid standard deviation line. But essentially, like, if you are taking these day trades, your target's going to be either 1 standard deviation or just above 1 standard deviation, 1.5 or maybe 2, depending on the volume. But here you can see there wasn't a ton of volume on these pops, and here as well compared to back here. So you know, you're basically selling a 1 standard deviation move, and then you're getting back in at support. New support would probably be, I'm going to say, probably around 160 now. And so I think this will continue to be a good trader, just because it's in a really nice uptrend, and it's still, you know, it's been trading between this 1 standard deviation line, or this 1 standard deviation. It's been trading between that in a nice channel. So I really, really, you know, and the news is really solid too. So I think this stock will probably run up to $2, and you can look for a move up to $1.97 or $2 here. And then, you know, on the higher side, you can even say 215. But yeah, I would look for, you know, I would maybe look for this to now hold 168. If not, then look for it to pull back to $1.60 roughly, or $1.58. And then, you know, if it does hold this level here at 168, that's even more bullish. And if it gets volume at that zone, then it's probably going to make a move for the next standard deviation once it breaks above, because it's really trying to break above that $1.80 level. Once it breaks through that on good volume, I think it'll probably make another standard deviation move, or at least you can say that if you're trading with standard deviation lines. But as you can see on the 30 minutes, very, very exact here. Pulls back, holds the MAs, and then it actually finds some really nice cushion here at $1.50 to $1.48. And then it goes for a nice run for one standard deviation move. So this is why this tool is so useful, because you will find a lot of these stocks will just follow this exactly. But it's such an easy trade on this one. You know, once it held that level and it got some volume through here, it was easy to say, okay, this is going to make a nice move up to $1.67 or around that next standard deviation line, that orange line. And then again, it does the same thing at the open throughout the day on Friday. At the open, pops up off of that support level and makes a 1 standard deviation line move, or 1 standard deviation move. So really amazing tool. And then again, obviously the news on this is fantastic. Like, they're receiving a ton of cash. immediately, and then they're also Regeneron's also paying for their expenses, up to $2 billion worth of expenses. That's huge for a company sitting at, what is it now, $1.68. Yeah, that's big news. So I'd definitely be watching this stock for continuation. Definitely. Um, yeah, so that's, and then you can also look at, I don't have my standard deviation plotted here, but you also have to be looking at the volume that came in. Normally with these gap and goes that gap up early in pre-market, they're going to pull back at the open. And those are going to be good entries. Depending on the news, if the news is garbage, then it's probably just going to fizzle out. If the news isn't, then you're going to see a lot of volume come in, a lot of buyers step up when it pulls back, and you can see that here. So with that in mind, and then it couldn't break that level here. You can see $1.60, it could not break that level. With that in mind, you could say, okay, now I'm going to buy off of or near the solid standard deviation support on the 30-minute, and then look for another move up throughout the day if the news is good. If the news is really good, then the stock should continue up throughout the day. If it's garbage, then it's probably just going to fade and then close the gap immediately. But this one, I don't think it wants to close that gap. I think it just wants to keep running. As you can see, it's just making some really nice higher lows. So really nice trader. And yeah, I'm excited for this one for the coming week, as well as YTRA. With YTRA, it's closed really strong. So, I did alert these fairly early in the Discord. So if you're paying attention, and I will say this, like I've been trading a lot of swing setups lately, but I'm going to be trading a lot of these gap up, gap and go type news plays. So I would keep an eye out in the Discord. It's going to be much more active and a lot more fun, I would say. So definitely stay tuned. All right, guys, I'm going to end it there. Take care.